Hey everyone, welcome to this Jenkins tutorial where I'll walk you through some basic Jenkins features including running shell commands, working with variables, executing scripts, and adding parameters to jobs. We'll be using a remote Jenkins server for this demonstration. Let's get started. So just to give you a little bit more information, I spun up an EC2 instance right here where I downloaded Docker on, and then I pulled the Jenkins image from Docker, and I'm running my Jenkins server using a Docker container on this EC2 instance that I SSH'd into remotely. And on this EC2 instance, I installed the CentOS operating system, so it's Linux based. First, let's create a new Jenkins job and configure it to execute a simple shell command. This job will print hello world to the console. So our Jenkins job will print this message. So first, let's print this in my VM. So as you can see, I'm logged in as EC2 instance, as EC2 user. On this instance, I'm in the Jenkins data folder. Let us print this, and just to show you, Docker PS, so I'm running a container that is running this Jenkins/Jenkins image that you can find online, and my container's name is Jenkins. We map it to port 8080. That's how I'm connected here. Like if you log out and log back in, it's all configured here. So we ran the command. It's pretty simple. So let's just make a new job. We will click new item. So first I need to log back in. We will create a new job. We will call it job 3. We will select freestyle project and click OK. Next, you have all these options here. General, we'll go into some of these later, but for now we will go to build steps and we will add an execute shell step. We will copy paste our command echo hello world. We will click save, and then we will click build now. We can see our build history down here in the left side. We can click here and look at the console output, and there we see our message hello world. Another thing you can do in Linux is if you type in date, this will show the date. So let's change our job so that it will show the current date on the machine hosting this Linux container. We can modify our command to look like this. So we will have this string, and then we will print out the current date and time on the machine. So let's run that first in our EC2 instance. So here we could see it's October 16th, and the time is different from the last time, 9:53, 9:54. Now when we run this as a job, it will basically run that command on our Jenkins machine for us in the background. So let's configure and let us change the command, but now it will be able to fetch the current date. Let us save that. Let us build now. We will see our job. Let's check out the history and check out the output. The date is October 16th, 21:54. So it was able to output the current date and time as it did in the console. Basically, whatever we can do in the console, we can also execute that function in Jenkins. Now let's see how we can define and use variables in our shell script inside Jenkins. So we can make variables in Linux. So if we put name equals Bill, then if we want to echo hello, it will write hello Bill. So Bill is stored in this name variable, and we can print that out. So now let's try and see how this would work in our job. We're going to define our variable like this, and then we will print it out. We use the $sign to reference a variable, and then we will also print out the date as we did previously. So let's try this new script in our job. Let us go back to the job, configure, and change it up. Click save. Let's build this now. Now it finished building and we can see the console output. So as you could see, we wrote hello, and then the value of our name variable came in our print statement, in our console.log statement. And then once again, we wrote the date and time. So we can use variables within our Jenkins job, and that's what got executed on our VM, this bash command, and printed it out to us. We can also redirect the output of our commands into a file. Previously, we executed this. Now let's try and push this output into a file. First, let me show you how we can write our output to a file. Here we have our statement, and to write to a file, it's pretty simple. We just put the greater than sign and then the path of where we want to store the output of this statement. So I will store it in this folder. We will click enter. Next, we can see what is written there by using the cat command. And as you can see, we wrote in that file this statement. I have my Jenkins server running within a container on this server. So this actually won't be written to the file system in this server. If you know about Docker, it'll be written to the file system within the Docker container. So first, I would like to go into my Docker container using the docker exec command. Now I'm in my container. Jenkins is the name of the container. So once again, I can run this command within the container, and that's where it'll be saved. Now let us see what's written there. And we don't have the name variable defined. That's why it didn't come. So if I give the name Tommy, and then if I run that again, it'll overwrite whatever is currently written there. And now if we try and read it again, we will see Tommy, because I now made a variable and also the date and time. So let us try and run this command in Jenkins and see what happens. So we will go back to our job. We will configure. We will modify this. We will now put a similar command, but as I mentioned, we are writing to this file. So we'll put a new name just so that you could see it gets overwritten, and it will also have another time. So we'll do Ashley. So now it'll write this into this file within my Docker container, because as I mentioned, Jenkins is running in Docker for me. Save, build now, and there's our new build, console output. So there it is. Now let's go back. And if we take a look into here, it should be overwritten with hello Ashley instead of hello Tommy, with the current and the time, and will be different. And there it is. Hello Ashley, Current date and time, Wednesday, October 2020-02, so 2 minutes later. As you can see, we don't get also anything printed out in our console output. Next, we'll look at executing custom scripts from Jenkins. First, we need to create a script and make sure Jenkins has access to it. First, I will show you our script that we will make. The name variable takes the first input argument and last name variable takes the second input argument. Then we print out both of these parameters that we have inputted into these variables in a print statement. So let's go ahead and create this script on our VM. So our container doesn't have a text editor, so what we're going to do is I'm going to create this script in Vim on my in CentOS and then copy it into my Docker container. So first I will exit here. First I will create a new file called script.sh and we will edit it in the text editor. Then we will just copy paste everything that I will provide to you. And we will hit escape shift : WQ. And there it is. So we have our new script, script.sh. Let's go ahead and execute it. I need to refer to the current directory. Permission is denied, so let us change the mode on this to make this script executable. Permission got denied, so we can change the mode on our script to make it executable, and we can do that with this change mode command. So we will click change mode. Now let us try executing our script, and there you got hello, but we didn't pass any parameters. This time we will pass Bill Nye. And there, so our first parameter got mapped to the first variable and the last name got mapped to the last name variable, and we got printed Bill Nye. But this is on our local machine, but not on our CentOS, but not in the container. So now we will copy this script into the container. If you basically, so because Jenkins runs in the container and the script needs to be accessible to Jenkins. I will copy the script into my Jenkins container using the docker cp command. Copy this file into my container into this directory within the container. This will make this file accessible to Jenkins, so it will be able to execute it when I modify the job. So it successfully copied it. Oh, I need to, my Jenkins container is lowercase j. There, it successfully copied it. Let's go into Jenkins. Now I'm in the container, and let us go and see what is in this file right here. There's our code that we wrote. Let us execute it. And we will put, I don't know, Tom Smith. And there, it's executing just as we wish. Now let's go ahead and remotely execute this from our Jenkins server. So we'll get our Jenkins server to execute our script as a job. So let's configure this and let's modify our bash command that it'll execute. So if you're paying attention, you actually only need to execute this command right here. That's it, because it'll be accessible from the container. So all we need to do to execute our script is point to the script location and put in our parameters. So that should work. And just so that we'll change up the name to Sam Kent. We will click save, build now. There's our successful build. console output, and there we got hello Sam Kent, and it executed the script just as we planned. But what if we want to be able to dynamically set the first and last name for this job, not have to go into the job and manually change it every time? That's where parameters come in. So let's see how we can add parameters to a job. Adding parameters to our Jenkins job allows us to dynamically change the input values without editing the script every time. So we can go into our job, go to configure, and we can select the option this project is parameterized. We will add a parameter, we will add a string parameter, we will call this parameter first name, we can give it a default value of Joe, and we can add a second parameter for the last name, and we can give the last name Doe. And now we can reference these parameters from our shell command by just putting the $sign to show that we're using a variable, put first name and last name as we wrote up here, and it'll have a default value of Joe and Doe. So we'll save that, build with parameter, and as you could see, it changed from build to build with parameters. Now we have the option to build this project, and we have the option to modify the values of this first name and last name parameters. It displays to us the default, so we can build this right now. We can see the console output, and we got hello Joe Doe. We can go back to the job. We can build with parameters again and put a new name. We'll put Tim Hortons. Click build. Take a look at the console output, and we got Tim Hortons. Let's take a look at list parameters and add a list parameter to our job. This allows us to select from a list of predefined options. If we go back to our job and we click configure, we can scroll down to our parameters section, and we can choose to add a choice parameter. We will call our choice color, and we'll add 3 choices: red, blue, and green. We will click save, and we can now click build with parameters, and we get a drop down list of our options that we added. So we can choose any of these. We can click build, and we can also use the choice that they picked in our job. So we can just click echo and then choice, or my variable's name was color. Yes, color. So we can echo color, click save, and build with parameters. Jim Gordon, we'll go with green, click build, see the console output. So it said hello Jim Gordon, and from the echo green we got green. And if we go back and we build it again, we'll pick red and we'll go with the default, go to the console output, and this time it printed red. Let's add a Boolean parameter that controls whether the script should display the name or not. First, let's modify our script. So we're going to have a little bit of control flow logic, where if we put an input of true, a certain text will appear, and if we put false, a different text will appear. So let's modify our bash script, and then we will add a Boolean parameter to our Jenkins job so that we can change the output and have a little bit of control flow going with our job. This will be our new script. The first input will go to the name variable, second input will go to the last name variable. So this will be their name, their last name, and then this will be a Boolean value that will be inputted into our script that will go to the show variable. If the show variable has a value of true, then we will write hello, first name, last name, and if it has false, we will type this message to the user. So let's go ahead and add this script to our Let's go and add this script to onto our VM hosting our Jenkins server. So let us exit. Let us go into our script. So we are going to edit our script.sh. Let's go ahead and delete everything and paste this. Now we will save it. So we can take a look at what we just wrote. There's our new text. It's there, saved as we wish. Next, we will copy it into our container. We will use the docker cp command. As I mentioned earlier, we will copy script.sh into this location of our Jenkins container. Click enter. We will now enter our Jenkins container. And we will execute the new script that we wrote just to see it working quickly. So temp. So now we will add a first name, last name, and now if we add false, we get this message. If you want to see the name, please mark the show option. And if we put true, we get the hello Jim Doe just as we programmed and described here. Perfect. So now we want to execute this script and have this we want to be able to modify this true false option with a parameter within our Jenkins job and execute the script from our Jenkins server right here. So we'll go to our job, click configure, and we will add a new parameter. It'll be a Boolean parameter. We will call it show message. By default, we will set it to true. And all we want to do is put it as an input to our script. So now if we click true, true will be put into our script that we wrote on our server, and it'll do the appropriate control flow logic of this if statement. And then if we put false, it'll print out this statement for our if statement. So let us click save and let's check it out. Build with parameters. We will show the message. Let's take a look at our output, and there we got hello Joe Doe. We echoed red. Next, let us go back and we will build with parameters. We won't click this, and let's do a different choice. Click build. Let's take a look at our output, and now we got the other statement just as we wish, and now it works perfectly just as it did on in our Docker container on our EC2 instance. It works perfectly as a Jenkins job that we can trigger remotely from our server. And that's all. We've covered how to create Jenkins jobs, run shell commands, use variables, execute scripts, and add parameters to control the input. I hope this gives you a good foundation to start automating your workflows with Jenkins. Thank you for watching. If you found this helpful, please like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next video.